In the 5th year of my secret marriage to Trevor, he handed the major project I had been working on for 6 months to a new intern. I stormed into his office, full of rage, to demand an explanation. Trevor lazily tossed a diploma from a prestigious university at me. Sophie graduated from a top-tier school. She's already excellent. She just lacks a platform. How can you compare to her? If I hadn't seen the lipstick stain on his collar, I might have actually believed him. When Sophie pushed the door open and walked in, the atmosphere between Trevor and me was tense enough to spark a fire. I instinctively snapped, "Don't you know how to knock?" Sophie's small face instantly went pale. She choked back tears and said, "I'm sorry, Jade. I didn't know you were in here." I've refused the project from Mr. Hunt many times, but he— "Enough!" Trevor interrupted, shooting a look of displeasure at me. "Jade, this was my decision. Don't take your anger out on Sophie." "No, I don't want the project anymore. Jade, please don't be mad," Sophie said, her tone dripping with grievance, yet her eyes unable to hide a glint of triumph. Watching them play the good cop/bad cop routine, making it look like I was the one making a scene over nothing, was exhausting. Trevor looked at me with an expression that said, "There's nothing you can do about it." "Jade, I've already made the decision regarding the project. No matter how much a fuss you make, it won't change anything. I'll make it up to you later. You can go now. I have things to discuss with Sophie." I didn't speak. I just gave them both a calm look. The shade of lipstick Sophie was wearing today was very distinct, so distinct that I immediately recognized it as the exact match to the stain on Trevor's collar. Looking at the impatience on Trevor's face, I suddenly felt tired. If he wanted to give it away, let him. I said indifferently, "No need for compensation. You're the boss. What you say goes. I'll show myself out." Hearing this, a flash of surprise crossed Trevor's face, followed quickly by satisfaction. Before I closed the door, I saw Sophie already sitting on Trevor's lap, acting coquettish. Back in my office, I received a message from Sophie. "Jade, Mr. Hunt asked me to thank you. He said your hard work over the past 6 months is appreciated. Thanks for the project." The project Sophie was talking about was one I had been spearheading since the beginning of the year. This morning, my assistant suddenly informed me that the lead for the Boston project had been switched to Sophie. That Boston project was one I had secured by drinking with clients until I nearly had a gastric hemorrhage. For the following 6 months, I worked early mornings and late nights revising plans and supervising the site. Now that it was finally time to wrap up and take the credit, the lead was switched to someone else. Suppressing my anger, I had gone to confront Trevor. All I got was his ridicule. "Sophie is a talent. I'm just thinking about the company's long-term future. Besides, if the company does well, it benefits you too, doesn't it?" I had looked at Trevor with red-rimmed eyes, but there was no guilt or heartache in his gaze. "That project, I practically traded my health for it." Trevor frowned. "We are husband and wife. The money ends up in our hands regardless. Does it really matter who the project lead is?" I refused to back down. "Yes, it matters." "Jade, I am the owner of this company. Everything you have, I gave you. Can you stop being so unreasonable?" Seeing that I wouldn't yield, Trevor's expression turned grim. Thinking back on it now, I felt a desolate chill in my heart. I had helped him build this company from the ground up, and this was what I got in return. I contacted a lawyer I knew well and asked him to draft a divorce agreement. When Trevor came home that evening, he was carrying a small gift box from Gucci. He opened it and casually tossed it in front of me. "Your compensation." It was a bracelet, a free gift Gucci gives out when you buy their limited edition rings. I had seen that ring on Sophie's Instagram this afternoon. The ring for the mistress, the freebie for the wife. I gave a bitter smile, closed the box, and set it aside. Softly, I said, "Thank you." Trevor was surprised by my reaction. In the past, whenever he gave me a gift, I would happily hug him and kiss him. Then I'd take photos from every angle to post on social media. He asked, puzzled, "What, you don't like the bracelet?" I looked at the divorce agreement on my phone without lifting my head. I like it. With that, I turned off my phone, said, I'm going to sleep, and went back to the bedroom. I missed the unreadable expression on Trevor's face behind me. After he showered, he came into bed, hugging me from behind and kissing my neck. Honey, about the project. I pushed him away and said calmly, It doesn't matter anymore. Go to sleep. Trevor was dissatisfied with my attitude. Jade, what is this? Who are you showing this attitude to? I looked at him, perplexed. Was he unhappy because I wasn't screaming and crying like I used to? In the past, whenever something involved Sophie, I would fight with him hysterically. It was usually a mutually destructive battle. Trevor used to say, Jade, you look terrifying when you're jealous. Now that I wasn't fighting, he was unhappy. Seeing I wouldn't speak, Trevor dropped a, You're so boring, and went to sleep in the guest room. That night, I didn't toss and turn like I used to. Conversely, I slept very well. I slept so well that I didn't wake up until the third alarm the next morning. When I finished getting ready, Trevor was already sitting in the living room waiting for me. Usually we left together, and he would drop me off around the corner from the office. He said he didn't want people gossiping about our relationship, so I had been his secret wife for 5 years. But shortly after Sophie joined, he started leaving early to pick her up. They often entered and left the company together. I once asked him if he wasn't afraid of people gossiping about the two of them. Trevor looked at me with disgust. Sophie and I have a normal superior-subordinate relationship. Why would I fear gossip? It's you. People with dirty minds see dirty things. I fell silent at his answer. He was afraid of gossip regarding his lawful wife, but not afraid of gossip regarding his constant companion, the intern. This was the double standard of loving someone versus not. Seeing I wasn't moving, Trevor urged, What are you standing there for? Sophie has been waiting for a long time. I was on my period and didn't want to squeeze onto the subway, so I didn't refuse. When we got to the car, I habitually reached for the passenger door, but Trevor spoke up. Sophie gets carsick. You sit in the back. It saves the trouble of switching seats later. I paused for a second, then got into the back seat. Trevor drove familiarly to Sophie's apartment complex. Trevor, good morning. I made 3. Sophie hopped into the car, presenting a lunchbox like a treasure, opening it to show Trevor the sandwiches inside. She stopped halfway through her sentence when she noticed me in the back. Jade, you're here too? But I only made 2 servings. Sophie looked at Trevor with a troubled expression. Without thinking, Trevor said, She already ate. Sophie beamed and started eating breakfast. Once I brought a cup of soy milk into the car and Trevor kicked me out. He said he hated people eating in his car. The smell was disgusting and it was dirty. Since then, I never ate in his car again. I watched Sophie feed Trevor from the front seat, her movements more practiced than mine ever were, and I let out a light chuckle. Hearing my laugh, Trevor remembered I was there. A flash of embarrassment crossed his face, and for once, he explained himself to me. I'm driving and don't have a free hand. Sophie is just helping me eat. Don't overthink it. I gave a flat, When we were close to the office, I asked Trevor to drop me off so I could buy breakfast. But Sophie chimed in, It's so hot today. If Jade walks to the office, she'll be all sweaty. Trevor, let's just drive her to the door. And so, I was driven directly to the entrance, stepping out under the gossiping gazes of my colleagues. When I returned to my office to eat breakfast, Trevor pushed the door open. Seeing me eating, he remembered I hadn't eaten earlier. His voice sounded a bit flustered. Sophie only had 2 portions earlier, so... I didn't want to discuss these trivial matters. I interrupted him. Did you need something? Trevor was stunned by my question. In the past, whenever he came to my office, I was overjoyed, finding any topic just to keep him there a little longer. Trevor frowned. What are you playing at? I gave a blank, huh? And asked, how am I playing at anything? He stared at me for a moment. Fine, as long as you aren't. So, what do you want? Trevor said, don't attend the proposal presentation later. Let Sophie present it. Although I had guessed this would happen, my heart still throbbed with a dull ache. I nodded calmly and added, "That works out. I have to go out for a bit anyway." Trevor asked casually what I had to do. I raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Personal matters." Trevor clicked his tongue and left. Before the presentation meeting began, I took a taxi to the law firm. I used the time to discuss asset division with the lawyer. When I came out of the law firm 2 hours later, I took out my phone to call a cab and saw 99 plus missed calls and unread messages. Frowning before I could click open the notifications, the phone rang again. It was Trevor. "Jade, where the hell did you go? You aren't answering your phone." Hearing his furious voice, I asked him confusedly what had happened. Trevor was silent for a few seconds, suppressing his rage. "Come back to the office right now." When I taxied back to the company, a dark-faced Trevor was sitting in my office. Before I could ask, Trevor scolded me violently. "You create a proposal but don't make a PPT? Did you do this on purpose to embarrass Sophie? You knew she took over this project last minute. I think you did this deliberately. And you said you weren't angry. Is pretending fun for you?" Hearing this mindless accusation, I understood what had happened. I sneered. "Trevor, you gave my project to someone else and expected me to make the presentation slides for her? Don't you think that's crossing the line?" A flicker of guilt passed through Trevor's eyes, but he immediately reverted to commanding me. He ordered me to make a PPT for Sophie, preferably with a script, or I shouldn't bother coming to work tomorrow. My hands paused as I was organizing my things. I whispered, "Okay." My quiet obedience made Trevor look at me twice, but really only twice before he went back to comfort Sophie. Just then, a notification popped up on my phone. "You have a new email." Opening it and seeing the words, "You have been accepted," I smiled genuinely for the first time in days. The day Trevor gave my project to Sophie, I had gone home and submitted my application for graduate studies abroad. I didn't expect a reply so soon. I had wanted to study abroad right after college. I had applied to Stanford back then, but on the day I got the acceptance letter, Trevor said he wanted to start a business. I resolutely gave up on studying abroad. I never imagined that my lack of a higher degree would eventually become his excuse to hurt me. As for the PPT and speech he demanded for Sophie, consider it my final parting gift. I pulled an all-nighter and handed the PPT and script to Trevor. He nodded with satisfaction, a smile in his voice. "Good work. Go home and rest today." I didn't refuse. I turned and left the company. Back home, I started packing. School had already started. I was a midterm enrollee and needed to get there quickly. I decided to tell him about the divorce tomorrow. I was just taking what belonged to me. While packing, I saw Trevor's wedding ring. Mine was always on my hand, but he never wore his, claiming it gave a bad impression. Yet now, he wore a couple's ring, matching Sophie's. After packing, I booked a flight for the next day. Trevor didn't come home that night, claiming he had overtime at the company. But I saw photos of the two of them celebrating at a hotel on Sophie's social media. I texted Trevor, "See you at the office tomorrow morning. I have something to tell you." The next morning, Trevor and Sophie arrived together. Trevor was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. He was surprised to see me sitting outside his office, but remembering his night out, he asked guiltily what I wanted. Before I could speak, the entire building suddenly shook. Someone shouted, "Earthquake!" Trevor shoved me aside, grabbed Sophie, who was standing nearby, and ran toward the open space. Colleagues scattered in panic. The shaking stopped in less than a minute. As people walked back, they were all discussing the beautiful love between Trevor and Sophie. I lowered my head, gave a bitter laugh, then hailed a taxi home, grabbed my luggage, and went straight to the airport. Before the plane took off, I sent Trevor 3 words: "Let's get divorced." When the plane landed, I smelled the scent of a new beginning. Because everything happened so suddenly, I hadn't even written a resignation letter. I thought about it, wrote, "I wish you both a long life together" on the letter, and emailed it to Trevor. Then I blocked all his contact methods, pulled out my SIM card, and threw it into a roadside trash can. Memories of the past should not pollute my future. For the first week after arriving, I attended classes and looked for housing, having zero free time. Once everything was settled, I finally had time to log into WeChat. My messages and calls were at 99 plus. Many people asked why I had resigned. Only my assistant, Chloe, sent me a video. In the video, Trevor walked into my office in a panic, holding his phone. Finding it empty, he started calling repeatedly. Finally, he threw his phone on the ground in rage. Sophie walked up to him, comforting him gently. "Jade is probably just... calm down." The person filming was far away, so the audio wasn't clear. The video ended with Trevor leaving with Sophie. I chuckled softly after watching it. Sure enough, for his beloved woman, even an angry Trevor would calm down. Trevor didn't have a good temper. Since we got together, he had used all his gentleness and patience on me. Friends said I was special to him. I thought so too. Before, if I even teared up watching a drama, he would hug me and comfort me with heartache. But after Sophie joined, whenever we argued until my eyes were red, he said I was pretending, making a fuss over nothing. I knew people changed, and I never expected him to remain exactly the same forever. But feeling that he no longer treated me as he used to, it still took me a long time to accept the disparity. Chloe followed the video with a message saying the Boston project contract fell through. Curious, I asked why. Chloe immediately voice called me. "Jade, you finally replied." "I was dying to tell you. Sophie is useless. You wrote the PPT and script, but she actually read the data wrong. The client said unless you come back, they won't sign with the company." Chloe also told me Sophie tried to blame the failure on me, claiming my script was wrong. But Trevor didn't side with her this time because he had reviewed the script himself and knew the data was correct. It ended with Sophie apologizing to Trevor. Chloe also mentioned that Trevor had been wearing mismatched clothes for the last 2 days, and she had to try hard not to laugh. Hearing this, I felt nothing, just regret for my 6 months of hard work. My days abroad were fulfilling, classes during the day, planning a studio with friends at night. Half of the clients at Trevor's company were my personal connections, people I had befriended through drinks and gifts. Since I had the resources, I wasn't going to waste them. A few days later, Chloe sent another dispatch from the front lines. Because Sophie made another data error, costing the company millions, Trevor exploded at her. He had worked hard to build the company. No matter how special Sophie was, she wasn't more important than the business. I just didn't expect that 3 days after receiving this news, Trevor would appear at my school gate. Seeing Trevor, my first thought was, is he unhappy with the asset division in the divorce agreement? I didn't know how Trevor found my school. I only knew I didn't want to see him. When Trevor saw me, his brow furrowed and his lips pressed into a tight line. He asked in a low voice, "Why did you block me?" My voice was colder than his. "Trevor, if you have issues with the divorce agreement, talk to my lawyer. I don't want to see you." Hearing the word divorce, Trevor's face turned darker than ink. He sneered, "Divorce agreement? I won't sign it. I won't agree to divorce you." I didn't know how a cheating man had the nerve to say he wouldn't divorce. "If you don't agree, I'll sue for divorce in court," I said mercilessly. Trevor stared at me intently. "Jade, what are you making a scene for? Just because I gave that project to someone else? You want a divorce over one small thing?" I laughed out of anger at his shamelessness. He watched me pour my blood and sweat into that project, only to use it to amuse his mistress. "Trevor, I'm tired. I don't want to live a life that revolves only around you and the company anymore." In 5 years of marriage, my world had prioritized Trevor. I worried about his meals, helped manage the company, working tirelessly like a robot. Friends asked if Trevor had bewitched me to make me so devoted. I'd smile and say, "He saved my life." Literally. Freshman year, a ceiling fan fell in the classroom right above where I was sitting. I was too frozen to react. It was Trevor who pulled me away and shielded me. I was unharmed, but the fan grazed his arm, drawing blood. Later, I asked him if he was stupid to jump in like that. What if it hit his head? Trevor smiled gently. I didn't think that much, My brain just screamed that I couldn't let you get hurt. My future plans all include you. What would I do if something happened to you? I believed he loved me then and truly wanted a life with me. But I also believed that he didn't love me now. Trevor asked, confused, "Haven't we always lived like this?" I was rendered speechless. After a moment of silence, I said bitterly, "Yes, but that was based on me loving you." When I loved Trevor, I believed him when he said he was working late. I believed him when he said he was on a business trip. I never doubted him. But he used my love and trust to hurt me again and again. "Trevor, I don't love you anymore." Saying it felt like lifting a massive stone off my chest. I felt light. Trevor looked at me in disbelief. No one would believe that someone who had loved him for 7 years suddenly stopped. "Jade, what kind of joke is this? We've been apart less than a month, and you don't love me? Do you even believe that yourself? I flew all the way here to pick you up. What more do you want?" Hearing his impatient tone, the last shred of attachment I had vanished. "Trevor, you know how much effort I put into that project. You know how much it meant to me. When you gave it to Sophie, did you consider my feelings?" Trevor frowned. "I'll give you 2 projects later to make up for it." I laughed sarcastically. "No need. I don't want you, and I don't want the projects." Humiliated and angry, Trevor growled with red eyes. "Jade, fine. You think I really can't live without you? Leave if you want. I don't care." With that, he turned and left without mercy. After Trevor left, my informant Chloe often sent updates. "Jade, Mr. Hunt has been acting like he ate dynamite. He yells at everyone, even Sophie. She ran out of his office crying this morning." I was surprised. Didn't Trevor like Sophie? Now that I stepped aside, couldn't he be with her openly? I didn't have much time to think about Trevor. The studio I founded with friends was in its final stages. I was busy as a bee. Trevor had been tossed to the back of my mind, until one day my home security app alerted me to an intruder. I remembered the camera in Trevor's house was still connected to my phone. I was about to hang up, but accidentally clicked open the feed. In the video, Sophie was supporting a drunk Trevor as they entered. I raised an eyebrow. Finally couldn't resist bringing her home. Sophie helped Trevor to the sofa, then went to the kitchen to make him honey water. Trevor took a sip and spat it out immediately, frowning. "Who told you to use cold water for honey?" Sophie froze and explained, "I always use cold water." Trevor smashed the cup on the floor, pushed Sophie away, and stumbled toward the bedroom. Sophie followed him with a smirk, but Trevor went into the room and slammed the door shut. Sophie hit a wall. She knocked furiously. "Trevor, open up. I haven't come in yet." After minutes of knocking, Trevor opened the door, looking impatient. "Why are you still here instead of going home?" "This is my room with my wife. What are you trying to do?" Sophie said in a sugary voice, "Didn't Jade divorce you? Trevor, you still have me." She reached out to hug him. Trevor shoved her to the ground, frowning deeply. "My wife is just throwing a tantrum. She won't divorce me. Get out." Sophie stood up, eyes red, and slammed the front door as she left. After she was gone, Trevor slid to the floor, muttering to himself, "Honey, I didn't touch her. Did you see? Honey?" Eventually, he fell asleep, leaning against the doorframe. I put down my phone, feeling conflicted. I thought after the divorce, Trevor would be with Sophie immediately. I thought he liked her. His attitude toward her was the same as when we were dating, maybe even gentler. He forbade me from revealing our relationship and refused to wear a wedding ring, but he wore a couple's ring with Sophie and entered the office with her openly. When colleagues teased them, he tacitly accepted it. When colleagues used to tease us, he would coldly say, "Don't talk nonsense. Jade and I are just business partners." So when he rejected Sophie, I was surprised. But only surprised. No other emotions surfaced. I uninstalled the surveillance app. Since we were divorcing, there was no need to keep it. The next morning, Chloe told me Trevor fired Sophie. She said Sophie refused to leave and made a scene, but Trevor had security drag her out. I had to read the message a few times to make sure I wasn't seeing things. Didn't he bring her home yesterday? Why fire her today? Men are hard to predict. I didn't dwell on it. My studio opened domestically today. I couldn't be there, so friends live streamed it for me. I didn't expect to see Trevor at the school gate again the next day. He held a bouquet of roses and looked at me gently. Honey, I'm here to take you home. I frowned. Why are you here again? Don't you have work? Trevor paused, suppressed his dissatisfaction, and kept his voice pleasant. I came to bring you home. I fired Sophie, so don't be mad anymore. That project is still yours. Neither the company nor I can function without you. I sneered and exposed him. Wasn't that project rejected by the client? Trevor didn't expect me to know, but he showed no embarrassment. He smiled and said, You secured it the first time. I know you can secure it again. I shook my head. Impossible. Not you, and not the project. Trevor asked, puzzled. Weren't you bothered by Sophie? I chased her away. And I'm wearing my wedding ring. When we get back, I'll announce to everyone that you're my wife. I waved my empty hand at him and smiled, but my ring is gone. Trevor didn't believe it. He knew how much I loved that ring. It was the one he handmade for me before proposing. Trevor grabbed my hand urgently. Jade, you're joking, right? You hid it, didn't you? I laughed lightly. Trevor, you know I never joke about things like that. Trevor looked at me for a while, then let go of my hand, his tone full of guilt. Honey, I know I was wrong. I was just momentarily confused. When I saw Sophie, I remembered you in college, so I couldn't help being nice to her. Hearing this ridiculous excuse, I wanted to laugh. Is that the only excuse men have for cheating? Trevor shook his head frantically. Nothing happened between us. I never touched her. I took out my phone, opened Sophie's social media, and shoved the picture of his bare back in his face. Trevor, do you recognize your own back? I had stared at that photo for countless nights since it appeared on her feed. Trevor took the phone, astonished. Why haven't I seen this post? I took the phone back. You'll have to ask your Sophie. He frantically explained that he was drunk that night. They just slept in the same bed and nothing happened. I shook my head. I don't care anymore. Who you are with, who you flirt with, it has nothing to do with me. Sign the divorce papers. I'll find time to come back and finalize the procedures. With that, I turned to leave without looking back. I didn't expect Trevor to refuse to leave. He rented an apartment near the school. Every morning, he waited at the gate with breakfast. After class, he waited with flowers and followed me back to the dorm. Classmates asked who he was. Meeting Trevor's expectant gaze, I said clearly, word for word, a casual friend. The light in Trevor's eyes dimmed, but quickly brightened again, as if telling me he wouldn't give up. Sure enough, he persisted. Trevor was moved by his own actions, but I was annoyed to the limit. After class one day, I walked up to him and said coldly, Trevor, let's talk. 10 minutes later, we sat in a coffee shop. Trevor looked at me nervously. In all our time together, I had never seen that expression on his face. I sipped my coffee and asked helplessly, Trevor, what exactly do you want? Trevor looked at me earnestly. Honey, I'm waiting for you to forgive me. You know my personality. Once I refuse something, I don't turn back, I said mercilessly. Trevor persisted. I know I was wrong before. I did terrible things. But trust me one more time. I'll change. I won't make you sad again. Get healthy. Let's have a cute baby and we'll be a happy family. I rejected him firmly. I won't go back with you. There's only one path for us. Divorce. There's no other choice. Don't stay here. There are many things waiting for you back home. Trevor, don't forget you have a company to run. Trevor shook his head. You are the most important thing to me. I can't live without you. I rolled my eyes. When we were together every day, I never saw him unable to live without me. Seeing I couldn't persuade him, I couldn't be bothered anymore. Do what you want, but no matter what you do, I won't forgive you. Trevor, it's impossible. From the moment you started flirting with Sophie, We were over. Trevor stared at me blankly. I ignored him and got up to leave. But that night, the hospital called asking if I was Trevor's family member, saying he was injured and hospitalized. Out of basic morality, I couldn't ignore it. I rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, Trevor was still in a coma. The doctor told me he had been mugged at knife point. In this country, most people just let it go. But Trevor chased the robber for 5 or 6 blocks. The robber panicked and stabbed him several times. The doctor said, before he passed out, he kept saying in English, "Ring! Ring!" I paused. Did Trevor get hurt for that ring? When Trevor woke up, he confirmed my suspicion. Looking at the blood-stained ring in his hand, I whispered, "Trevor, it wasn't worth it." Trevor shook his head stubbornly. "Jade, I know I was wrong. I don't want to lose you." I took the ring from his hand and, under his expectant gaze, threw it out the window. "No!" Trevor roared and struggled to get up to retrieve it. I held him down, looking firmly into his eyes. "Trevor, give up. Even if you died for that ring, I would only feel pity." Trevor stopped struggling. With red eyes, he asked, "Jade, do I really have no chance?" I replied without hesitation, "Yes, look forward." Trevor was silent for a long time. Tears slid from the corners of his eyes. "I understand. You can go." I looked at him once, then turned and left. Opening the ward door, I whispered, "Goodbye, Trevor." Behind me, I heard the sound of Trevor sobbing. During the Christmas break, I returned to the country. When I landed, I called Trevor and told him to meet me at the Civil Affairs Bureau the next morning. Trevor had lost weight. He was wearing the black coat I bought him last year, staring at me blankly. "Jade, you've become even more beautiful. Have you been well?" I smiled at him. "Very well, let's go in. I have an appointment later." The studio was developing better and better. I had a client meeting soon and many things to handle. Coming out with the divorce certificate, I stood in front of Trevor, smiling, and straightened his crooked tie. "Trevor, let's never meet again." I turned and walked away. Trevor stood there watching me, dazed for a long time. I took a taxi to the studio, where Chloe was already waiting for me at the door. When the studio was established, she jumped ship to join me. Seeing me get out of the car, Chloe walked over quickly. "Jade, long time no see." Before I could answer, she told me the gossip about Sophie. "Jade, Sophie was disfigured yesterday. She became a mistress to a tycoon, but the tycoon's wife is ruthless. She brought people to beat Sophie up and slashed her face with a knife. For someone like Sophie, who only wanted to take shortcuts, I wasn't surprised by this outcome. I poked Chloe's forehead and said grumpily, "I see you don't have enough work if you have time for gossip." Chloe waved her hands frantically. No, I'm going to work right now." I stayed in the country for a few days and then returned to school. During the semester, I was busy handling studio matters every day. Before I knew it, graduation day arrived. At the ceremony, a male classmate confessed to me with a bouquet of flowers. I smiled and declined. Right now, apart from working and making money, nothing else moved my heart. After our divorce, Trevor never recovered and drank heavily every day. Because of several major bad decisions, his company quickly went bankrupt. I mercilessly took over some of his company's contracts and recruited several capable employees to my studio. His life was going downhill, while mine was just beginning. I didn't expect that less than 6 months after his bankruptcy, Trevor would die of liver cancer. His friend called asking if I could attend the funeral, saying it was Trevor's last wish. Actually, during his hospitalization, Trevor called me many times saying he wanted to see me, but I refused them all, including this time. I didn't agree. I didn't want to see him when he was alive. Why would I go see a photo of him now that he was dead? I just wanted to live my own life well. One day, someone suitable will walk toward me proactively. If not, that's okay too. I can live a wonderful life on my own.